Welcome back to a mini series on UAE Holding Structures. Today, we move into a topic that inevitably drives most structuring decisions: tax. I am joined by Amisha Anil, Tax Director at Rethink. Amisha works closely with businesses and private structures, navigating the UAE corporate tax landscape. Amisha, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Jenny. This really matters because tax assumptions have a habit of showing up late to the party and ruining an otherwise perfectly good structure.
Agreed. So let us start with the basics. Who actually falls within the UAE corporate tax net?
Well, in simple terms, UAE corporate tax applies to UAE residents and in some cases non residents. Well, residents include UAE incorporated companies, including free zone entities and individuals running a business. Non residents can also be taxed if they have a permanent establishment, UAE sourced income, or a sufficient connection to the UAE. So, yes, the net is wider than many people expect.
So, one of the biggest assumptions we hear is that a passive holding company automatically sits at 0% tax. What is your take on that?
Well, this is probably the biggest myth we hear. People hear the word passive and immediately think of tax free holiday. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. The UAE tax regime does recognize that holding companies are different from operating businesses, but the outcome depends on where the entity is set up, what income it earns, and whether it actually qualifies for free zone benefits. So it's not being passive, just being passive, it's about being passive properly.
Okay, so what type of income are we typically talking about for passive holding companies?
Well, most holding companies earn dividends, capital gains, interests, or intragroup income. Many of these can fall under the 0% tax bucket, but only if the conditions are met. So think of it less like an entitlement and more like a membership card. You only get the benefits if you meet the rules.
And another common misunderstanding relates to substance. There is a tendency to assume that passive structures require none.
Well, passive does not mean invisible. Even a holding company needs to show governance and real decision making. That doesn't mean a full office and headcount, but it does mean the company can explain why it exists and who is actually in charge. If not, tax authorities tend to get curious, and curiosity is really good for tax outcomes.
So the UAE is known for having no withholding tax and a wide tax network. Does that mean it is an ideal jurisdiction for holding companies?
It is attractive, but treaty access is not automatic and does not arise merely from incorporating an entity in the UAE. Treaty access depends on tax residency, beneficial ownership, and substance. In practice, non substantiated passive holding companies will generally not be able to obtain a tax residency certificate precisely because they lack sufficient substance. Without a TRC, treaty benefits cannot be claimed, and foreign tax authorities may disregard the entity for treaty purposes altogether. So, as a result, while the UAE's domestic withholding tax position remains favorable, treaty reliance for purely passive structures should be approached with caution. Where treaty access is a key driver, the structure must be designed to support residency and substance rather than assumed after the fact.
So how should clients think about passive holding structures from a tax perspective?
Well, if a holding company earns dividends from shareholdings, those dividends may be exempt under the participation exemption, but of course, provided the conditions are met. If it earns other income, it may still benefit from the free zone relief, but only if it ticks all the right boxes, all the conditions. Once non qualifying income crosses the threshold, the 9% corporate tax rate steps in and it does not do any exceptions.
So passive cannot mean tax free. That's not something that we should be assuming.
Exactly. Passive does not mean tax free. Low or zero tax is achievable, but only if the structure is designed carefully. So, in tax, assumptions are expensive and planning is always cheaper.
Okay, perfect. And that wraps up the tax angle of passive holding structures. Amisha, thank you so much for joining and for educating us on how UA corporate tax framework really works in practice.
Thank you.
So, in the next episode, we explore a completely different theme, corporate migration, a topic that is very much in front and center right now. Thank you for listening and stay tuned.